Hello and welcome. This is hlessjon and episode 9 of my Java Fundamentals tutorial. Today we're going to cover inputs. I want to look at inputs because they're very important for your studyings in the future. So let us begin. We already know Java has a lot of code already written and available for us to use through the collection of Java libraries. In this episode, I'm going to use our very first Java library to import and use one of these libraries in the form of java.util.scanner, which you'll see in the code. I'm going to use this scanner class to get information from a user, assign that information to a variable, and then return the information in that variable to the screen. We're looking at the process of creating a new object from the scanner class. You see this line here, scanner, and then scan_name. And that's the new scanner variable that this particular example is using. And then the keyword new, because we're creating a new scanner object. And then scanner, and then system.in. If you want to know more about the scanner class and how the scanner works, there's going to be links down below. You can research that to your heart's content. To get the user input, we're going to use one of the methods available to the new scanner object. I'm going to use a method called next. Next gets the next string of the text that a user types in. You can see this line here, string first_name, and this is the variable being initialized. Then of course after that you have to create the new object, scanner, scan_name equals new scanner, system.in. Then we're going to use the system.out.print, which will have a single line print out request input here, so that we can request the input. And then finally, we'll assign that requested input to a variable. First_name equals user_input.next. And that will assign the next thing typed in to our variable first_name. Notice the two variables are being used. String first_name, which is a blank variable that we've already initiated, and then we are assigning to that the scanner object that we're collecting, the user_input, so that will collect whatever's typed in, assign it to user_input, and then assign that first name to first_name. And we'll see how this works in the example. Alright, if you haven't already, you should load up the gettinginput.java example code that I've provided. And you will notice on line 9, we have the import java.util.scanner. That is our first import. Then we have the class, which we are calling gettingInput. Then we have our main. Then I initialize several variables, an integer, a double, and a string. Then we have the scanner, our new scanner object, in which we are going to assign to user_input. Then we have the system.out.print. Now I'm using print here because that'll allow the cursor to appear at the end of the line rather than print line, which would make the cursor appear underneath. It's pure personal taste, whether you use print or print line. I'm going to assign the input, which is going to attach to user_input to my integer. And then the next line, enter a number with a decimal, my double. And you'll notice this will cause an error, and I'll show you that here in a minute when we run this. And then I will explain the error that this causes. And then I have a system.out print line because I want a space afterward. You entered the numbers and then my integer. Notice the concatenation before and after because I'm putting more strings after the variable. My integer plus and my double. And then system out, enter a string. My string 1 equals user_input. And then system.out print line, you entered my string 1. Now what this program does is it asks you for a number without a decimal, and then a number with a decimal. Then it prints out those two, and then it will ask you for a string, and then we'll print out that string. So let's run that and see what that looks like. And there are the errors that I told you about. What's happening here is we're actually trying to convert a string into an integer or a double, and this is not allowable because it only works with strings. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to force Java to convert those into integers and doubles. And that's pretty simple. You just go back into here and you find your line, my integer, user underscore input next, and then put after next int, and that will cast it into an integer. My double equals user underscore input dot next, and again, because you're going to do a double, just put the word right next to next, put double, and that will cast it in as a double. And save and rerun, and you can tell that it works now. Enter number without a decimal. I put in 8. Enter number with a decimal, and I put in 8.8, and enter a string and just put in a name or word, and there it works. And that's how that works. And that's the basics of input for Java. Pay attention to the homework this episode because it's particularly important that you get these concepts, and the homework should be rather difficult for beginners, but doable. I hope you learned something and that you find this educational. Again, thank you for joining me. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you around.